And if we'd please rise, I'd ask Mr. Beaver to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. And just for the record, the series of the next meetings will be Thursday, December the 4th, 7 p.m. That's another budget workshop. Tuesday, December the 9th, our regular board meeting. Thursday, December 11th is the continuation of the budget workshop. We do have two open budget dates, December 16th and December the 18th. And with that, we can begin. Where is he? Well, he's over there now.
We're over here.
Fine, be that way.
Well, I figure budget time I swing to the right as opposed to...
You ain't touching that.
There we go.
Either, we'll leave the chair of the budget committee on the left, I don't know.
This evening, we want to address three areas, personnel, athletics, and curriculum. And we'll work our way through it. And because the board has been through this a number of times, what we're going to try and do is be succinct and to the point, if in fact that's to the board's pleasure. Just to begin with, the section personnel budget represents 58% of our $60,776,840 general fund budget, which, as the board is aware, the general fund budget is up less than 0.25%, and also stands at $1,431,203 below default. The bottom line on salaries, if you turn to page 363, is we're proposing a budget of $35,292,842, which is $660,359 less than this year's budget. As the board is aware, staffing is driven by a number of causes, one of which obviously has to do with enrollment. District-wide next year, we're projecting 5,188 students. That's down about 97 students from our October 1 enrollment this year. We're expecting a drop at the high school of 23 students, a drop at the middle school of 23 students, a drop at Matthew Thornton of 26 students, 26 student drop at South, 5 student drop at North. Actually, Moose Hill up about 2 students, and Leap, we're projecting 4, but board has to keep in mind that with Leap's rolling enrollment, that number varies quite significantly from the beginning of the year through the end of the year. But we use October 1 figures as jump-off points, for lack of a better term. To try and put everything in some framework, going back to FY06 and projecting ahead to FY10, we will have, during that period of time, eliminated 27.8 teaching positions. We will have added 3.5 sped positions for a cost avoidance of $145,000 by adding programs. We have reduced support staff, sped assistants, and instructional assistants by 185 hours a day. That's a cumulative 35,150 hours. And we will have reduced clerical time by 40.7 hours. That's almost 6 full-time positions during this period of time. So as we have gone through various machinations with the budget and looked at staffing patterns and looking at needs, in particular, we have continued to make adjustments in our staffing based on what we consider to be student needs and programming needs, and also reflections of enrollment changes. I would like to direct the board to page 345, and we're going to start there because I think this is really main focus. Page 345.
Hold on one second,
Yes,
Steve.
sir.
Steve's just got a
I'm
question.
sorry about this, but I I don't want to get lost on this.
Sure.
So when I go through the rough numbers that you just gave, it sounds like you're down 30 employees. When I add the special education, even though they end up saving us money.
Correct.
And I take the 6 and the 27.8, so you're down 30 employees.
Yep.
And the district is down 90 students
Yep.
to 5188.
Right.
All right, thanks.
Here's where this year was a challenge for us, and we moved ahead. We took a look at, when we look at staffing, there are a couple of things that we obviously look at. One is enrollment patterns. And for those people who are not familiar, we could have an increase of 5 or 6 kids at a particular elementary school. And because of where the students fall, we could wind up having to either increase by 1 staff member or decrease by 1 staff member, depending on where they're falling. When we look at special ed, we're not only looking at special ed raw numbers, we're also looking at the number of service hours those children have to receive. So it's possible, give you an example, to have a youngster coded as learning disabled, and that child may only need 2 hours of service during the course of a week. We could also have a youngster that has a significant developmental disability or has multiple disabilities, and that youngster could require 4 to 5 hours of service every day. So when we look at our staffing patterns, we not only look at numbers, but we also look at the services those youngsters require. Some of our youngsters receive, a particular youngster may receive learning disability instruction from a person, may be getting speech and language instruction, may also be getting occupational therapy and also getting physical therapy. In other instances, too, we may have a youngster who is significantly visually impaired. That youngster may, in fact, wind up having an aide full-time because of mobility issues, and that youngster would require us to bring in a vision specialist to work with them in a variety of ways. So it all depends upon the nature of the disability or multiple disabilities that a child has. So though, as you go through this budget, we have dropped special education staff, as I get into it later, you'll notice that we have what I would consider to be a significant drop in the total number of special ed kids over a period of time. However, the nature of the disabilities that the children we're serving have increased significantly. And so that has affected our staffing patterns. So as we look at that, that's also important to look at. So with that, and also too, we were very mindful this year of looking at financial situations, financial impact, and attempting to make prudent decisions regarding staffing, but at the same time, trying to protect as best we can the investment that we have in our school district. So with that, if we take a look at page 345, this is our additions and reductions page. In special education, we at the middle school are dropping 2 special ed positions. Those are 2 case managers positions. We're dropping a total of, and then as you go down, an additional 6 hours of middle school assistant time. We're dropping 6 hours of assistant time at Matthew Thornton, 12 at North, and 18 at South. And Matthew Thornton, a 1/10 of a PE teacher, 3 regular ed teachers, 8 hours of instructional assistant time, that's time that was associated with those teaching positions, and 6 hours of clerical time. Now, question one might ask, doing that at Matthew Thornton, where does that leave us with class size issues vis-a-vis this year? This year, with an enrollment of 642 students, we have 32 teachers. It gives us an average class size of just about 20, a little over 20. Next year, with 29 teachers and an enrollment of 616, our average class size will be 21.2.
Do you have that by grades?
Yes, I can give it to you. First grade would be, average class size would be 21. Second grade, 20. And I can give you a chart to make life easier, but for the
Yes,
public,
thank you. Thanks.
third grade would be 20, fourth grade would be 24, and fifth grade would be 21. all right, with 29 staff members. Moving on to North School, we're adding 3 hours of instructional assistant time, and thanks to work Mark has done with the state, we're able to take 1.5 full-time equivalent teaching positions and move those to Title I and use federal funds to pay for those. So that we're able to take those positions out of the budget. Where does that leave us? This year at North School, they have 26 classroom teachers and an enrollment of 569. That gives them an average class size of 21.8. Next year, with 26 teachers and a projected population of 564, their class size would be 21.6. This is the way the enrollments break out by grade level. First grade, 19. Second grade, 20. Third grade, 21. Fourth grade, 27. Fifth grade, 22. Okay? Moving on to South. We're doing the same thing at South that we're able to do at North. 1.5 full-time educational support positions are going to be moved to federal funds. Once again, thanks to the work Mark was able to do. We're dropping 2 teaching positions there. We're dropping 5 hours of instructional assistance time and 20% of a guidance position. Where does that leave us? Currently this year, South has 29 classrooms with an enrollment of 598. Class sizes are 19 in first, 20 in second, 20 in third, 24 in fourth, and 21 in fifth. Next year, we're projecting 27 teaching positions. We dropped 2 with an enrollment of 572. Our class sizes would be going from 1 to 5 respectively, 20, 19, 20, 24, 24, giving us an average class size of 21.2. Moose Hill, what we're recommending is dropping a kindergarten teacher and thus, in addition, 6 hours of instructional assistant time, which would go with that teacher. This year at Moose Hill, we have 310 students, 18 sections. That's 9 teachers because it's morning session and afternoon. Gives us an average class size of 17.2. Next year, with 16 sections, we would have an average class size of 19. At the middle school, life gets a little bit more complicated because of the way it's organized, but we're recommending the following. Dropping 4 regular ed teachers, 1 foreign language teacher, and an hours of monitor's time. Now, this is the way we would project the reconfiguration. Merging of a 6th and 7th grade team. For scheduling purposes, the 2 half teams will be merged into 1. Students will remain on separate floors and will participate in all grade level activities. The change will affect the adults as they will need to teach both 6th and 7th grade in their area of expertise. It would allow us to maintain a good teacher-student ratio as well as not affect our related arts program. It also allows us to maintain appropriate special ed services on the merged team, thus not overburdening one of our existing teams with an increased caseload. The student-teacher ratio for that 6th, 7th grade combination, if you want to call it that, 6th grade would be about 23 to 1, 7th grade about 24 to 1. And some of the classes would be higher depending on how they're grouped, but it's within there. And what's happened is that from 06-07 through what we're projecting for 9-10, there's been a total enrollment drop of 87, and if you go back another year or so, it's been over 100 students, 105 students. So I think it's an appropriate thing to make that adjustment. Some of the board members who have been on for a while may remember that about a couple of years before Andy came, we did have a half team at the 6th grade because of enrollment, and then when the enrollment went up, we made an adjustment. We're also recommending, as part of the package, that we would drop the 6th grade foreign language program. And for those people who are not aware, the 6th grade foreign language program is basically an introduction to the world language. Students are exposed to culture, basic vocabulary, numbers from 1 to 31, as well as basic commands. And it's 5 weeks of 21 days are spent on French, and 5 weeks, 21 days are spent on Spanish. approximately a third of our sixth grade, historically about 130 kids, do not matriculate to world language. They continue on in reading. And the board is aware that the 7th and 8th grade foreign language program is basically a 2-year program. So we feel comfortable at this point with, in fact, dropping that particular program, making this accommodation. And I think we'd wind up going to a trimester. Is that correct, Andy? Moving along. At the high school, we're recommending dropping 2 FTEs. Now, I can't tell you right now what those positions would be. Basically, we're talking 10 sections. The issue for us would be taking a look at our course registration and then making some decisions based on that and making adjustments going along those lines. Also, all elementary, a combination of media assistance and computer ed assistance, total of dropping 13 hours. That gets us that pulls out of the budget through drops and picking up 3 positions in federal funds, a drop of 18.3 full-time equivalents and 78 hours of instructional assistant and clerical time. Now, if you go to the back end, and I'll come back to the numbers in a second, the back of the next page, excuse me, we've also made some swaps. Now, if you go, the first 3 areas that you see, the swaps from the LEAP assistant, -6 hours to kindergarten assistant, then a kindergarten assistant to the basic academic skills program, and then move from the basic academic skills program to the middle school, are all assistants that are following students. Then we take then the next one down, we're dropping 12 hours at Matthew Thornton and moving that to 12 hours in our Friends program. Again, that's a shift in enrollment and numbers of kids in the program. The next one, swapping 6 hours at the PFS program at the elementary level and moving that to the middle school. Again, that's following a student. The next one down, 6 hours of Matthew Thornton assistant time, moving to the middle school assistant, again following a student. The same thing follows with the 18 hours going from the middle school to the high school. What we're also recommending is converting 6 hours of high school assistant time to 20% of a teacher in our ACT program. What we're finding is we're getting a slight enrollment increase, and we're also seeing the kids stay longer in the program. So we've got that bubble, and we feel it's very important to get that additional 20%. We're also seeing movement of kids from LEAP into kindergarten. We anticipate we'll have 10 more kids in kindergarten who need LD services, so we're proposing moving a half of a special ed teacher from Matthew Thornton down to kindergarten, and then moving 20% of a Matthew Thornton speech to middle school speech because of caseload issues. Now, if you take everything into consideration and blend everything together, the total swaps, additions, and reductions comes to 18.1 full-time equivalents and 84 hours of clerical and instructional time. Salary-wise, that's a reduction of $872,749, and if I add in FICA, retirement, health, dental, the total reduction in staffing costs for the upcoming school year would be $1,255,787. So I think what we've tried to do with these reductions is protect our program and delivery services, at the same time trying to be prudent economically and try to basically meet the needs up and down the line. And I think having cut, for lack of a better term, $1.2 million in total staffing costs for salaries and benefits, I think is a significant move in that direction.
Just wanted to make so people either watching or in the audience, the numbers that they talked about includes moving all the benefits from the general fund to the food service department. So if this was all approved going forward, beginning July, food service now covers all her salaries, expenses, benefits, taxes, whatever. extra, almost $30,000 that will be shifted, not really a saving, it's shifted from the general fund to be covered by the lunch program.
Okay, thank you, Peter. As you go on, if you go to page 347, what we've laid out for you are a series of charts which give you a breakout of positions for FY09, what those positions are, full-time equivalents, and that's based on, and we have administration laid out for you, then it's broken down district office, and then, for instance, when you get to the high school, we've also broken it out. You see administration, teachers, support staff in hours, custodial in hours, grounds in hours, and the little bubble on the bottom is the proposed changes that we're proposing for the FY10 year. And we've done that for every school as you go through. High school, middle school, Matthew Thornton, north, south as we go on. Then Moose Hill and Leap district-wide. Then we have, because we count it as a separate area, allied health, we've broken that out for you, where we have 33.2 full-time equivalents. And we're proposing dropping 20% of the speech and language. We're moving 20% of speech and language from Matthew Thornton to the middle school, and we show you here how those positions are distributed across the district. And you may see, for instance, you may ask yourself, well, how come South School has more speech and language time, let's say, than North School when their enrollment is pretty close? What you've got to keep in mind is we have a number of district-wide programs over at South School. We don't have district-wide programs over at North. We have district-wide programs over at Matthew Thornton. We don't have, and that also impacts speech and language. And that also impacts nursing distribution, too, as you go through it. So one might ask, well, why do you have, for instance, 2 nurses at Matthew Thornton and only 2 nurses at the middle school? Part of it has to do with the nature of the district-wide special education programs that we have at Matthew Thornton. Another reason. Then what we've also done is broken out for you the non-affiliated and district office support staff. Non-affiliated are our IT guys, for instance, the school community service counselors, vocational counselor, athletic trainer, web technician, video technician, school career support, technology trainer, payroll, HR, and some of the support staff. And then we've broken out for you for FY09, office support and district office. And then high school office and support and monitors, and middle school. And we've laid all this stuff out for you, and either in the little bubble or a little square, you'll see the difference. So we've tried to do this in a visual way too, to assist people. It kind of is an easier way to look at it than 55 pages of numbers, what have you. What we've done is basically laid out all those numbers for you in the detail. There are a couple of things that I just want to point out that are important, and we come up for discussion every year. If you turn to page 373 in your book, if you go all the way down to the bottom, district-wide subs salary. We have budgeted for next year $358,660. What we've done is taken a budget at 70% of the 3-year actual average and put that in. And John may not be aware of this because he hasn't been through this budget process before. But what we always do is underfund the substitute line on purpose, assuming that we will get teacher turnover money and use that teacher turnover money to fund the teacher substitute line. Now, we've budgeted 70%. I've budgeted a little bit higher this year than we normally do because I don't believe we're going to get the same amount of teacher turnover money that we have in the past. And just a couple of things that you should keep in mind. Somebody's going to say, well, how come those numbers are the way they are? Well, last 3-4 years, we have averaged 30 maternity leaves a year. Ever since we had that good Catholic boy at the middle school as principal, our numbers have gone up. But and I would imagine that's going to continue for a while. We've had a number of long-term illnesses, and that has also impacted. And if you look at the distribution of our staff, we've got a group in the 50 to 60, 65 range, a fairly sizable amount. And we also have a fairly sizable amount of faculty who are in that childbearing age. They're 25 to 35, and so we're getting impacted on both ends. What's also of note is that a number in the years past, if someone may take a maternity leave and they go out for the whole year. What we're seeing is a number of our faculty will be out for 3-4 months and then they come back. So you've got that impact on your substitute line, whereas before it would be kind of just a swap off. So it's just the way things are, and that's the way it is, and those are just some of the things that we're working with, and it's just part of life, so to speak. So we've been moving ahead. There are really no other no other changes of any major import in the personnel side. Just a couple of things. Somebody's going to ask, well, and this question always comes up. It's ESL. Why do we have 2 people ESL? We actually have 24 English as second language students speaking 10 different languages. So even though the number is not as large as, let's say, in Manchester, being able to work with kids in grades K through 12 who speak 10 different languages becomes a challenge. And we try to provide as intensive support as we can so we can get the kids into the regular program and benefiting from the regular program as much as possible. We have not asked for an increase in the number of coaches. You'll also notice that on page 380, and the board is aware of this, you'll see an increase in the athletic high school salary support. That's the trainer line. The board is aware that what we had been doing in the past is we had Michelle, who was our full-time trainer, and then we supplemented her services with a contractual service agreement for a half-time trainer. The company that we were working with moved out of town. They didn't want to do it. We looked at the possibility of contracting that service, but by the time we contracted for that service and paid for insurance, it was actually more expensive than just hiring the person that we have, and it's the person that we've had for a number of years who's worked with us. So you're going to see the increase in that line going from the current year budget of $69,090 to $95,500 is really because we went from a contracted service and moved that halftime position there. And actually, it's a cost savings as opposed to continuing to contract it out. Our nursing and all other programs and services are staying at the same level. We're maintaining basically the other salaries are reflective of salary contractual agreements that we have with custodians and with the support staff. And we have not made any changes there as far as staffing levels are concerned. As far as custodian support staff, we've already addressed that issue earlier with you. And then the other item of note you might want to look at is page 386. We have been very successful over the past number of years in the amount of work that we've been able to do during the summer in curriculum development and preparing programs and curriculum. And we have once again looked to have members of our faculty work and do summer curriculum development work during the summer for implementation or continued implementation for the ensuing school year. Other than that, there really are not any significant change. There are no real other changes, just reflections of contractual agreements. and I guess the big thing is the fact that we've basically cut a net of 15.1 positions, moved 3 positions to federal funds for a net salary and benefit saving of $1.2 million and change. That's where we are, and I'd be happy to respond to any particular questions that you may have.
Questions from the board? John, Steve?
Now I'm confused. When I started this, I asked the question about 30 employees total, and now you just said 15?
Oh, I thought you had said from '06, Steve.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, I apologize. The total, when you look at the assistants, the total number of people may come close to 30.
Okay.
But assistants and clerical, we keep track of in hours, and then we convert it. But if the numbers that I gave you are from '06 projected to 10, so your number was correct. It was just from '06 through 10.
Nate, one of the things I would like to see is, as long as I've sat up here, is I've liked to keep numbers down below. I'm concerned about the 27 or 28 at North School. I was wondering if the staff can work on any alternatives that we have to that number there. I know we're not doing redistricting, but is there another alternative to that?
Okay.
Ben, did you have anything that you wanted to ask right now?
Yeah, just, it's been a year, so bring me back up to date on how you build these numbers, line item by line item. You're taking the current teacher's salary at each function code.
That's correct.
And
Well,
how is it,
but
just to
for
explain
teachers
how
and
it's
allied
worked.
health, they are frozen where they are until a contract for those 2 units have been ratified by the group and then voted by the boards.
Take the positions that we're proposing for next year,
Right.
what the salary would be for next year, and that's the number. Now, what you will also see is you may see some differences between current year and what was originally budgeted, or you may see an increase even though people aren't getting a salary increase from current year to proposed. That can be for several reasons. People may have moved on the salary schedule, so they may have gone from bachelor's 15 to a master's, or bachelor's to a 15. Also, at individual schools, because we have transferred people, you may see adjustments there, so that when we originally did the budget, we had a different set of staff members, let's say, at South School than we actually wound up with. So we take actual people.
So you took actual people in place
Sure.
today, and if they moved up because of a bachelor's 15 to master's 15,
correct.
you would consider that.
Yes,
But allied health and teachers are currently frozen with respect to movement on the steps as well as,
yes. So if they were making, for sake of argument, if somebody was making $20,000 this year, and they were a member of any one of those bargaining units, what we've built in is $20,000 next year.
okay, so you just took their current
That's
salary
correct.
and built it in here, except for changes in education level.
Correct.
And then, in some instances, these reductions are net reductions in dollars of, say, 35,000. In other instances, the average reduction is $75,000. Have you linked it to specific people in the specific positions?
That's correct.
Though those people may ultimately stay with the district, but be transferred into a different
Place.
position.
What we're hoping is that a number of the positions the people that are in a number of the positions that we're dropping, we will be able to put someplace else through attrition, people retiring or what have you. So you might have somebody who's presently working at South may wind up working at North because somebody is retired. There are a number of people, depending on what happens with our retirements, who in fact will wind up losing their jobs. Now, there are also a number of,
Excuse me, I didn't hear that. Would you say that again,
they
please?
would wind up losing their jobs,
Okay.
all right? We also have a number of elementary teachers who have dual certification. In other words, they have elementary certification plus special ed certification. I know of a couple of people. We anticipate we'll have, through retirements and other changes, we may have special ed positions so that we'd be able to move them to that, so we can keep them as a faculty member here. But depending on what we wind up with for retirements and where those retirements are, of the net 15.1, a number of those people may in fact wind up losing their position.
And how does contract seniority affect this?
But it affects it. We approach it as per the contract, which is by certification area. So you might have primary elementary, intermediate elementary. You would have, and I'll give you another example, foreign language, which would be middle school and high school. And we would just walk down through the provisions in the contract to make those decisions. It's possible, I'll give you an example, it's possible by reducing a foreign language position at the middle school that a person who's teaching foreign language at the high school would be the one that's ripped.
Yeah, I was just trying to get a sense for, we're showing approximately $1 million related to salaries, and then when it actually comes into play, what the plus or minus on that will actually end up being.
We'll track that, we'll track the actuals against what the budget was, just like when we have staff turnover. If I leave at 60, Anita comes in at 40, we tell you there's a difference of 20.
Right.
What we plan to do is keep a track of the budget and actual, so we know, because we need to know budget-wise, are we above or below the projection?
Right. The only way we can do it consistently, Ben, is by taking the people who are in the actual spots now and what their salary is and doing that. So that way, at least the numbers are consistent. So it's no different than projecting by adding, we add in people, we'll pick let's say bachelor step 2, and that's what we'll put in for a number.
On the positions that are being eliminated, is it possible just to get a separate worksheet that shows what the salary distribution is?
Sure.
Okay, so.
Yeah, absolutely. That's no problem.
Okay. John?
To Ben's point regarding the classroom size at North, I'm sorry, that was Ron? I'm sorry. To Ron's point regarding the class size at North, the number of 27 in 4th grade, that is less a function of teaching headcount as classroom space, is it not?
Yes, it's dictated by the number of teachers that you're dividing into the total number of students. So if we're looking at North School in 4th grade, 5 classroom teachers for 133 kids.
Right. But I think the question is more like, we're not reducing the teachers. The reason for the reduction is the lack of classroom space. In other words, if we had redistricted from one school to another,
Right.
we'd have roughly the same number of kids, one more teacher, and smaller classrooms.
You would have had 50 students, approximately 50 students less at North School, 50 students more at Matthew Thornton, with the same number of teachers, 26, and you would have had a different distribution of students.
Another thing, I can understand reducing teachers in schools where the enrollment is going down, but I'm also wondering, did we look at I count 4 office assistants in the DO. I think I saw 8 assistants in the high school.
Mm-hmm.
Non-instructional people that, not having them might make some people's lives a bit more complicated, but have we considered making concomitant reductions in those areas?
We have, in fact, over the years, those were some of the first places that we looked to make reductions. We have, over the years, reduced the amount of clerical time. If you go back to last year, we reduced clerical and monitor time at the high school Part of that was as a reaction to the new X2 program. Andy has reduced clerical time over the last several years at at the middle school. Matthew Thornton and the other schools have also reduced clerical time. We have reduced clerical time in the district office. Peter used to have a full-time secretary, now has a part-time person. Mark's, the person that works in the curriculum office, used to be a 12-month position. It's no longer a 12-month position. Sue Ballard's, the library media person's, that position used to be a full-time position. It's no longer a full-time position. We reduced the amount of time. We also reduced administrative time at the district office. The director of special ed, the supervisor of special ed used to be a 12-month position. That's no longer a 12-month position. So as we go through this, we take a look at all the positions to try and make adjustments as to what we think would be in the best interest of the school district. We look at one of the things that we feel strongly about, and let me talk about the assistants, the administrative assistant helper at the high school. We have two up in the guidance office. One basically functions as a registrar, and we've got kids going in and out there. Each of the assistant principals also has an assistant in there, and that's because we have encouraged the assistant principals and the administrators to be out and about in the building because of the amount of traffic that goes in and out of those offices and to track them. Just to give you an example of where we've changed the focus of what our people do, and I think this is really important. Last year, I didn't do it for this year. Last year, we asked we worked with the building administrators to take a look at exactly what we were doing with our time, and our main focus being obviously interacting with students, but also supervising and evaluating faculty and staff and monitoring the curriculum. So when we did a snapshot, if you will, going from September of '07 to December of '08, at that point in time, we had 125 formal evaluations, 170 individual goal-setting meetings, 148 pre-observation meetings, 167 post-observation meetings, 181 summative evaluation meetings, and 3,126 informal classroom observations. That's where I want my administrators. I don't want them in the office. I want them out in the building. I want them working with the kids. I want them working with the faculty. So it becomes more critically important than ever to have that administrative support to allow those people to do that. Absent that, they're not going to be able to do the kinds of things that I think are extremely important and the things that we really have to do. In addition to that, I think as we've gone through the years, we've seen a decrease in the amount of disciplinary issues that we've had in the schools on a regular basis. Why is that? I think one is the climates that's been created because, and I'll pick on the high school because obviously that's probably one of the most volatile areas, because those assistant principals are out there all the time, in the hallways, they're in the classrooms, and the principal is out there in the hallway and in the classrooms. So when we look at that, and we look at the total number of staff that are in each of the buildings, and the total number of students and the associated parents, and the amount of time that people spend in meetings, organizing, the kind of support, the kind of communication that we try to get out, I think the level of staffing that we have in that area is appropriate. When we look at our classroom staff and our support staff, what we've tried to do is be very consistent, that in those areas where we felt it was important that we have additional staff, we have not been bashful about coming forward. I think the other side of the coin is also there. When in fact we have a reduction, okay, or we think there are more efficient or effective ways in which we can address instructional issues, we'll come back to the board and say, we can reduce a position here, or we can reduce a position there. And then if you go back, I just want to go back to what I had said before. If you take a look at the amount of, if we have reduced since '06, the equivalent of 6 clerical positions. That's 6 clerical positions. And if you go back to taking a look at The other support staff, whether it's instructional assistants or whatever, is a total of 185 hours per day, which cumulative on a yearly basis is about 35,000 hours. So you look at it, I think what we've tried to do is come up with a balance, and in those areas where we felt we could do with less, or we could use technology to address certain issues, I think we have done that.
In terms of the office support in the district office, you mentioned that Sue, Peter, and Mark, I think it was, no longer have full-time.
We cut back on Mark's position, and I think what's important too is those positions don't serve one person. So the work that the assistant does in the curriculum office also does work for a variety of other people across the district and so on. That used to be a 12-month position. That was cut back. Peter's position used to be a 12-month full-time position. That was cut back. So it's 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, as opposed to 8, and it's not a full year anymore.
Right,
That
it's
position-
240 days.
Right. That.
And a full year would be, what,
260,
260 work days?
260, right?
So effectively, we're not paying these people for holidays and vacations.
No vacations, yeah, right.
Okay.
And cut back 3 hours a day, and then you gotta
One
also.
of them, yeah. The assistant superintendent and the director of library media technology are both
Right.
still at 8
And then
hours.
what you have to also remember is the position in Peter's office also works diligently on all the scheduling of the buildings. That's initially where the phone calls come in, so all that and that organization is done there. As well as providing assistance in the back end of the clam shack.
But when we talk about cutting back on this, that basically means there are 10 work days a year where the desk outside Sue's office is empty, and the same number for the desk outside of Mark's office.
20.
Well, except that they weren't gonna be there for during vacations anyway. So the net is 10 days.
And it also, but it's a savings in salary.
No doubt. I understand the financial savings.
Right.
I'm just talking in terms of
There's
the.
a savings of salary.
In terms of the
And the other thing to keep in mind.
man hours
Yeah.
of staffing in the office.
The other thing to keep in mind is that Mark's office is probably one of the busiest during the summer, where you've got all the elementary summer school program, all the curriculum, all the planning. It's a very busy time in the summer. Sue's, the position, the library media person, also provides a great deal of service to the library media people who are out in the buildings, too. So it's not, none of our secretarial positions, if you want to call it that, are really isolated to one particular individual, because they wind up doing stuff for a wide variety of programs and providing a wide variety of services. So,
No, I'm just reading the chart
Yeah,
here and
no.
see the direct line from
Right.
assistant
Well,
superintendent to office assistant.
yeah,
So I was
obviously,
working based
yeah,
on that.
and that's who they report to, and that who does their evaluation. But what we have tried to do over the years is utilize people in a variety of ways to do a whole bunch of different things. So Beverly is not just a receptionist. Beverly also tracks the information that, for instance, comes in on all the staff development, and she does all of that, which is a monster. So when the personal day requests come in or staff development requests come in, Beverly is one of them that tracks it. So we try to give everybody multiple responsibilities, and in almost every instance, they're doing stuff above and beyond, not just for the person who's direct line of support.
And none of these positions could be reorganized or combined or realigned in any such way that would give you the dollars to have classrooms of 20 students rather than 27 at North?
What you're asking for is a $60,000 position. The issue at North School is there's no space.
Right.
What I was asked for this evening was whether or not there was a way in which we could, in fact, come up with a situation that didn't have 27 kids in the classroom. we had proposed, you go back to the redistricting, and I don't want to rehash it, but our redistricting proposal would have had kids, basically similar class sizes across the board. You wouldn't have had 27 kids in a class at North School. It would have cost you one more teacher. That was our proposal. The issue here is we now have a space issue. I came in with a proposal. I have now been asked to go back and relook at it. I'm more than happy to do that. The board's decision will be if it costs us another teacher, let's say for the sake of argument, is the board going to ask me to find that equivalent money someplace else?
So if another teacher fell out of the heavens into North School, we couldn't find a place to put them?
I guess I was asked tonight to come back with a recommendation. That's what I was asked for.
Go ahead, Ben.
George, it would be my recommendation is that we don't link these two issues. The teacher can be addressed separately, the superintendent can come back with some recommendations. But I like John's line of questioning because this is the issue we've talked about before with respect to policy. And, you know, as these positions have come open during the course of the year, there's always been the conversation as to whether or not we should fill the position or not. And my position has always been, it's in the budget, we've set policy, let's fill it and fulfill the objectives we've outlined in the budget. If this is the time now to talk about these kind of positions and have the conversations that we've, had before. And so if you want to talk about dropping these positions, let's do that. But let's not link it to the North School issue. That's a separate issue.
For sure.
Which can get resolved
I agree with
separately.
you about not linking it with the North School, but the only reason I see it linked with teachers at all is because we're talking about reductions in staff, and the question becomes, in what areas do we look for those dollars?
And I appreciate that,
Yeah,
but
okay.
from a political perspective, and that's grand politics, but the reality is, we've got a policy decision. My perspective is we have a policy decision with respect to support staff that we've hashed out at other times, and we've chosen to follow the budget. Now's the time to reset that policy issue and have that discussion that we've always put off before.
Okay.
And then we'll work the teacher thing out later.
I'm not doing this for any political purpose.
Ron, you wanted to say something?
I'm going to take issue to the fact is we can't find space for that other classroom at North School.
Okay, well.
I'll make that one
we've-
statement. I've
we've-
asked the superintendent to
we've
look
asked
at
Nate to
that.
look at that,
And
so.
that was
let him look.
that was the
Right.
direction I had.
Right.
That's fine.
And, but,
Let's let him
I-
walk.
just one point before we leave this, not to be argumentative. I think, and what I tried to demonstrate, I guess in my opening statement regarding, when we looked at what the number of positions that we have dropped over the years, I think we've probably been more aggressive with the classified side than we have with the certified side.
Yes.
And we've done that on purpose. Also, too, I think, I don't want, if I had my choice, I have 15 kids in a classroom, and I'd be a happy camper. I'm not gonna argue that point at all. However, looking at the reality of stuff, when we have drops, and we can maintain class sizes like I'm proposing, with support in them, like the instructional assistants. Now I'm looking at, for instance, 19, 20, 21, 24, 20. Those are nice class sizes. Would, if I had my druthers, would I like to have 15 in them? You betcha. Okay, I'm not gonna argue that point. But also too, what we're trying to do is be a little bit on the realistic side as far as the financial situation is concerned. If we weren't facing the financial situation we are nationwide, I can guarantee you I wouldn't be coming in with those reductions. I can guarantee it all. Some, yeah, but not all of them. And, that you can take to the bank if it's still open. But, but that's where we are.
Thanks, Nate. Actually, I just want to ask you one quick question, and I apologize if you went through
No
this when
problem.
you were going through enrollments and teacher. You mentioned, or you're showing a two teacher reduction at the high school.
Yes.
I just don't, 23 for me is not a significant, 23 I think you said is a reduction in student enrollment. 1,800 kids, that's not really
The way-
significant number, so I'm just concerned that we're gonna sacrifice programs or
I think
something there. I
one
wanna
of the
make sure we
things
don't
that
do
we have
that.
to look at, you bring a good point. One of the things that we have to look at the high school is different than looking at, the elementary level or even the middle school level, because of the wide variety of courses that have to be offered in credits. So what we're really looking at is 10 sections. Basically, 2 sections a day, if you wanna call it that. And what the decision we'll make is based on the number of kids that sign up and whether or not we can accommodate kids. Now, in some instances, we may be able to pick up a number of sections depending on how we schedule the school. Right, so sometimes you can pick that up, right? Other times you can't. So if in fact we can't accomplish that, right, and we have a problem, and I wouldn't have a problem coming back to the school board. But my gut is that we have a good chance of picking up 10 sections without sacrificing programs or services. If I feel that that's the case, I have no problem coming back to you and saying, I can't do it. I need a half, I need a 3/4, I need a 1.
And that's the dialogue, I think. I, for one, as one member of the board, I certainly expect that
The board-
dialogue to
yeah.
happen. I'm not looking to
No, the board has always been,
reduce services
the
here.
board has always been excellent. When we've come back and said, we've got a problem, for instance, our ESL enrollment has gone up, I need another half a teacher, the board has said, go ahead, do it, because it provides an appropriate level of service for the kids. I won't have a problem coming back, and if it's in September, and I have to find money by cutting something someplace else, I'll do that, okay, because that's the priority. My feeling is now that we have a good chance of finding 10 sections. If we can't,
Okay.
I'll let you know.
No, that's fair, thanks. Steve?
To piggyback on George's point, on the other side, I'd be interested during the budget process of understanding. Let me use some fictional courses. Let's say that the high school offers, underwater basket weaving and, book welding today. And there's 3 people that are signed up for these classes. I'd like to have the board, have it presented to the board, these high flyer courses. We've had conversations before about them, for instance, with Latin, and we all know the value of that class. But just to get an idea of what other classes are out there that the average citizen of Londonderry might think are not core classes.
If memory serves, hold on 1 second.
Hopefully Steve meant something like, rather than underwater basket weaving, maybe AP,
Steve, what,
Calc 4 or something like
Steve,
that,
what-
that has 3 participants in it. I don't think we want to characterize our high school as offering,
That's why I
Bush
made up.
League classes, because I don't believe we
Oh,
do.
no,
I
that's
think
why
we-
I made up the names. I'm interested in what.
Well, and to that point, I would believe that if we had 2 students that wanted to take, if there's such a thing as Calc 5, or some advanced mathematics class, and we have the capable of offering it, I would think that we'd want to offer that opportunity for those students, if we can do it. I just,
And what if 2 students wanted to take basket weaving?
well, I have priorities, and that wouldn't be one of them.
Thank you. That's my point.
okay, if you go to page 220,
It's important.
okay, what we've broken out for you are course enrollment by sections and number of students. All right, so Steve, that'll kind of give you a little bit of a background on it.
Page number?
Page 220.
220.
Okay, starting on page 220 and running through 225. What we've identified is the course and number of sections and total number of students. So I'll give you some background. Now, some of the numbers, just as a reminder to everybody, Some of the numbers are low. Some of those are our replacement classes, and some of them are honors classes. And some of the replacement classes, we on purpose keep those numbers extremely low, on purpose. And if you divide the number of sections into the total number, it doesn't mean, for instance, that in problem and statistics, there are going to be 21 kids in every section with the 3 sections. It all depends on how the kids' schedules fall out, right? But this will give you an idea of what, in fact, we're offering and the number of kids that are participating in each of those sections, right? So, and then we do run sections because we've got flop overs and there are a number of kids, so that you might have 40 kids that want to take Latin 3 for the sake of argument, and the way the schedule works, you got 28 in one and 22 in the other, just so. And then the other thing that we also do too, we also do independent studies for students also, so that we attempt to accommodate some students that way too. But this will give you an idea. So when we get the course selections in, we'll take a look at those and we'll take a look at the schedule and see how we can work it. One of the things that I think has been really effective for our school district over the past number of years is the fact that we've been able to offer kids a wide variety of opportunities, and I think that's paid off. I mean, when we talk about the number of kids that have gone on to college, or the number of kids that are doing adult ed, or the wide variety of activities, I think that stuff pays off, and we've been able to run courses with quote-unquote smaller numbers than you normally would look at. But we offer, I think, a wide variety of course offerings in a legitimate way, and we'll just see how the course selections go, and make some decisions based on that.
See, and that's the term you just used, the wide variety. My question is, if we reduced that variety, would there be opportunity for savings?
Let me give you an example. There are some courses.
By the way, as I scan through, there's no unreasonable
Right.
courses that jump right out.
There may be some courses that we presently offer that maybe are offered at Alvern or Manchester, or at another high school where a kid could go, or a youngster could do that on distance learning. So there are some opportunities. So the goal for us would be, within obvious reason, to provide those opportunities for the kids as best we can. You just have to look at it. Sometimes you look at it in a different way. When you get the course selection guide, the high school course guide, for instance, we're going to have a new course in there because we think the recommendation from the high school is we're going to have woodworking for women, which I think would be a nice thing. I mean, we're going to offer that. Be
We'll
nice
be
in
in
my
court
house.
on that
Maybe
one.
something we get done. So.
You're killing me, Nate. All right, before, I think we're pretty much covered personnel, at least for the presentation part. Does anybody have any other major questions till we get into January, instead of talking about further ways? Before we move on to curriculum, I just want to let everybody know my intention is to not let these sessions really go beyond 10 o'clock. I just think it becomes counterproductive at that point, so.
Okay.
we'll kinda
Except they'll
Go
be-
from there.
Mr. Chair,
Except for,
Mr. Chair, could I
I'm sorry, yeah, Ben?
I was just gonna say, not one to pass comments freely, but I really like the way this is put together, especially the way you laid out the organization chart and where the personnel are located. It's very clear, and I thought he did a very nice job
Thank
with
you.
that.
It's a team effort. Peter
Your
and
team
Nina.
did a very nice job.
Administrative team, they did a nice job putting this stuff together. Yeah, are you finished with me at this point, Mr. Chairman? Well, not really, but the presentation.
He
Well,
leaves me-
your
he
contract
leaves me
runs a
these
little
openings.
longer.
I move that
He
we,
leaves me these
I
openings.
move that we're done with Nate.
There you go. I'd like to ask Howard to come up and do the athletic budget now, and then
Oh,
we'll go to
sure. We're
curriculum.
gonna make a little switch, no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, he's got conflict of schedule, so we squeeze him in and tonight, so he wouldn't be here.
Oh, it's got wrestling match to cover.
No, I'm not gonna wrestle with that tonight.
Howard, how are you?
Well, thank you. How are
Good.
you?
Strange rashes.
Athletics. I don't know, Howard, they're running like flies. You came and sat down, they're like
Now we need a superintendent.
running out the doors. Yeah, where did they both go? They can't do this to me, the two of them.
That means we have to make Peter the superintendent.
Oh,
No, is Mark here?
no, he's not.
No, I think it's, to be fair, it's Rich Achille.
Okay.
You're in charge, Rich. We need a superintendent here.
Yeah,
Apparently, because neither one of the two of them are
Speaker of
here.
the House,
Yeah.
I would like you to sit wherever you'd like, sir.
New Hampshire, for those that, New Hampshire state law indicates we need a superintendent and 3 board members to conduct business.
So we had 3 and there's 1. Cool. Howard, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. I just have a short statement, and then I'll be happy to take all the questions that you would like to ask about the proposed athletic budget for
Is he
the
applying
coming
for
year.
a bailout or something?
Pardon me?
Let us know if you're applying for a bailout.
This year, when I was hired to be the athletic director for the Londonderry School District, I said that I would do a comprehensive review of our athletic program, which I have done to the extent that I can at this point in the school year. And that really helped me in focusing and developing my budget proposal for this current budget. Knowing the fiscal realities of the world today, I built an athletic budget based on needs as well as fixed costs designed to give our student athletes the quality educational experience that has been the hallmark of the Londonderry athletics, and one that fits in well with the overall mission of our school district, which is where we're trying to have students maximize their potential. We continue to have a high participation rate in athletics, and one of the inserts in the budget lists our actual participation by sport and by school. And we have high participation at both LHS and at the middle school. That contributes to the great amount of success that we have had at both schools over the years. And this budget, I believe, allows our high rate of participation to continue, and it will continue to provide strong feeder programs for our high school varsity programs, which will keep us as one of the stronger Class L programs in New Hampshire. And now I'd just like to highlight a couple of things from the executive summary that I put together for you. In many of these, the increase is due to the increased fixed costs. For example, in the area of game officials for both Londonderry High School and Londonderry Middle School, the increased amount that I am requesting reflects the per official increase of $2 per person per event. I've also increased the amount of the line, which I believe we need, which is to increase security at some of our high school events. I requested this after supervising my first fall here in Londonderry, and I realized that for maximum security and maximum safety of all fans and athletes, I felt that we needed to increase security/supervision at some of our events, so I did put a little bit of an increase for that. The equipment reconditioning line, you'll notice, was increased a small amount. That reflects the increased cost due to the need for more replacement parts and more replacement hardware in our older helmets that we send for reconditioning so that they can pass the NOC SAE certification, which is a national certification for use for all of our helmets. And as any budget, unanticipated repairs. I put a small sum of money in there for unanticipated repairs that will occur during the course of the school year. I've also requested an increase in the rentals to cover the costs associated with increased pool and ice rentals. And again, I believe that reflects what I believe to be the cost for next year based on projecting out the costs that we're going to pay this year. We also continue in the budget to allocate the same $2,000 for spring indoor rentals when we have poor weather in the spring, so that our teams can work out in the spring and not have practice. One item that I am asking for in the replacement line in the Londonderry Middle School is the cost to purchase a new set of soccer goals. And after inspecting them and we use them this fall, but I do believe one of the pairs is aging and are beginning to become worn, which, again, I believe that if we replace it before it becomes a safety issue, that would be a prudent course of action. The equipment replacement for the high school reflects the amount to fund the 3-year helmet replacement program, which was begun last year, and I believe that's a very good program, one which I'd like to see continue so that we can continue to replace our older helmets and the helmets that become rejected from the reconditioner, so that our helmets will be up to date and in great shape. Other funds in this line, as indicated, are for weight room replacement. Sometimes things break in there, or to purchase things to replace older items, and then again, unanticipated or general replacement. As part of the program evaluation process that I did perform, primarily in the summer when I came on board and then into the fall, I felt it necessary to make one change to the uniform grid, which again was put in place by my predecessor, which is also in your packet. And it is a major change. I added the purchase of a complete set of football jerseys for next year, and I did that for the following reasons. First of all, this year we had just the right number to outfit the entire team. We had actually no extra shirts for the team. We can't get replacement shirts for this set in the event of damage or wear, since the company that they use to make these shirts doesn't make uniforms, these types of football uniforms anymore. They're primarily in the commercial end of the business now. And so we got a price if we wanted to purchase a shirt that would be made custom for us by a different dealer, and that price came in at $125 per shirt, which is very expensive, twice the cost of what it'll cost to buy a new shirt if we purchase the complete set. Our set of freshman football uniforms only has blue shirts, and those are significantly old, and they're really starting to fall apart. So if we purchased a new set for the varsity JV, then we could pass down the current set to the freshmen. And the company that I am proposing that we purchase the shirts from has been in the football business for many, many years. That's their primary business. The price is a good price, and they guarantee us that the shirt that we design is one that they can fill in for the same cost that we purchased the set of shirts. So if we want to buy 2, if we want to buy 5, and in 5 years we want to buy this, a couple shirts, they guarantee that that'll be available. And again, this company's been in business for many, many years. As far as the remainder of the uniform grid, it's pretty much intact based on checking out our uniforms in stock, checking out the uniforms that the athletes wear, and I felt that that was an accurate reflection of what we needed to purchase for next year. The middle school grid is relatively unchanged also for next year. I think that, again, going through all the uniforms and evaluating the condition and the numbers that we have, I think that, again, that's on track to replace uniforms at the rate of about each 5 years for a set of uniforms, which is pretty standard in the high school world. If you can turn a set of uniforms over every 5 years, you've done a really good job of taking care of them, and I think we're on track to do that. And that's pretty much what I have for my highlights of my budget, and I appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you this evening. And again, I would like to emphasize to you that the budget that I am proposing, I believe, is designed to deliver a quality athletic experience and a quality educational experience that our student athletes now have. I believe the budget's designed to keep our athletic program where it is. And again, it's based on, I believe, needs and fixed costs that we will have next year. And that's really what I have for you, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have at this time.
Thanks, Howard. Questions from the board?
The,
Yes.
you mentioned security. Do you mean additional officers?
I don't necessarily mean additional officers, but I would like to be able to hire staff from the school to spread out, for example, at football games, in addition to the officers that we do hire who, at the beginning of games, are primarily used to guard the money, the gates and so forth. But if we had additional staff that we could disperse into the student sections, into the fan sections, I think that would help.
So this would be recognizable staff
That would be
to the
correct.
students?
Yes, and I think that, again, when we have large, especially student crowds, I think that in my experience, in my past job as an athletic director, that was a very good strategy to manage the crowds and keep our athletes safe, keep our fans safe, and to, again, provide a quality experience at our events, one that has great sportsmanship. And I think that our kids would do well with that if we could provide that for them.
Just one more question.
Surely.
The replacement jerseys is a line item for just over $8,000. You indicate that you recommended a company. Did you do any type of bidding?
If I do any type of bidding, I didn't actually bid it, but I did solicit, I did prices. And to be quite honest with you, the cheapest price isn't always the best product. In this, again, the price for this jersey would end up being in the neighborhood of between $50 and $60, depending on, again, when we're able to purchase it. It's a quality product. It's a fair price for what we're looking for. It's not the cheapest, but again, it's definitely a good price and a quality product from a reputable company that's been in the football business for many, many years, and they have a great track record. So I felt comfortable, and again, I've dealt with them a lot, and I think that this would be the way to go, to be quite honest with you.
Thank you. John?
Are there any sources of funding for any of these items? I mean, we're specifically talking about football jerseys and things like that, but there are other uniform items for other sports as well, and the additional cost for security that we might look at. I mean, if there are a huge number of people coming to games and we need more security for that, is there a bump in the gate that we can use to pay for it?
Well, I'll be honest with you, that's not really for me to address. We collect the gate and we reconcile it and turn it over to the business office,
Are you looking for increase in ticket pricing?
I'm looking for ways to get things done without adding to the tax base. So if the reason why we need more staff, Peter,
Yep.
if the reason why we need more staff for security at a game is because of a greater crowd, that would seem to be a variable cost that could be linked back to the fact that we have a bigger crowd.
Yes. Yeah, yes. And all the revenue from gate receipts is part of the revenue, total revenues that are part of the line called local receipts. So I can't tell you we're gonna bring in more people, but the argument that Howard's making is he just wants better control over the crowds. And
I understand that, but what I'm saying is,
we get like this year we had Pinkerton was the home game for football. So this year we probably bring in somewhere in the order of $2,000, maybe $2,200 more than last year because we were the host of the Mac Pike events. Next year they go to Pinkerton, so you can see gate receipts probably like $2,000 or maybe a little more, less than what we collected this year.
yeah,
So Howard's security overall, if he kept everything even, might be a buck less because he doesn't have the big Pinkerton events.
I guess my point is if the cost of staging an event is increasing, is there a way to collect that increased cost from the event itself rather than passing it on to, you know, the thousands of taxpayers who never go to a high school football game.
I think there may be two ways to address your question, and I'll ask Howard to provide us with some information too. The amount of money that is raised by the various booster clubs to supplement what's going on. So just to give everybody a framework, because there's a significant amount of money that they raise that goes directly to the kids, whether it's in uniforms or activities or jackets. The second point should also be looked at. One of the things that I think we've tried to, and this is where I've got a concern about ticket price, and there may be another way of doing it. One of the things that we've tried to promote over the last few years is the idea of team spirit and high school spirit. My concern is by raising the price on some of these events, we're going to prevent some kids from coming. So I think we've got to try and find a balance
I agree.
somewhere there. So I think what may help to clarify the question somewhat, and I'll have Howard and Peter put together the figures, the amount of money that is generated by the booster clubs to support the various athletic programs. So that might help, and we can also look at different ways of raising funds in essence.
Yeah, if I'd read the line item correctly, the current year is it, and this includes officials, referees, and I think that's where you're putting security, Howard? If I look at the note here, funds to cover game officials, regular season games, tournaments, and security attending games.
Correct.
It's 52.5 current year, you're looking at 53.8. That includes the increase in the referees and
That is
everything
correct.
else, so.
That is
We're not
correct.
talking about,
My
Go ahead,
one
Peter, I'm sorry.
point is two things. One, the booster clubs, and I call them baby boosters, I'm talking about lacrosse club, dugout club, or whatever. These clubs support the individual teams, and they do provide monies for equipment, and I'll use the term the superintendent has said, we'll pay for equipment that's necessary for the team in the field and be competitive. The booster clubs pay for equipment that a coach would like for a particular drill or whatever. On top of that, the parents, having two knuckleheads that have played football, we pay for all the parents or families pay for all the consumables. Practice jerseys, cleats, all the stuff that you're probably gonna throw away halfway through the year, if not at the end of the year. Those are all not paid for by the athletic department, that's paid for the parents of the kids participating in the game. So for a football parent, on average, me, I would shell out somewhere between $150 and $200 for a kid, for all the consumables and then whatever. And I'm sure soccer's the same way.
Yeah, try it with twins in the band. I understand the
So I'm
cost
saying-
of participation in
so
these
what I'm saying
programs.
is there are other little pockets that go ahead and help support the athletic teams that Howard is representing. I can't tell you about gate receipts, it's fluctuation of bodies that show up at the, show up at the game, whether it be football or now we're into the basketball season.
Bonnie?
Howard, when we speak about increasing the security, what are we talking about? At all games or just at football games? Or how many people at each football? What are we talking here?
Well, I guess let me, clarify this for you. The number one thing that I observed this year at Londonderry High School football, which is the main source of my concern so far, again, we haven't gone through a winter season here, is that we have a large property that we need to secure at a night event, and it became clear at times that myself and the police, which is essentially the staff that covers the games, just was not enough to cover that size of the property, to be honest with you, because the police were, as I said earlier, they cover the gates. That's two of the security people. You know, they're where the money is being collected. And then the other two, one usually stands at the end of our stands by the middle school, and one usually stands over near the visitor stands. But what we don't have, which I believe is important, and again, based on experience, is not police security, which is very expensive, but staff to be able to be with our students in case something does occur. and amongst the fans to help, again, to make sure that we provide a great experience and that the kids, behave in an appropriate manner. And I believe that our staff can be good role models in this area if they identify behaviors that need to be addressed, so that, again, all fans can have a great experience and we have great spirit and people want to come to the games to increase the gate. I just think being proactive in that regard helps because it is such a
I
large
agree with you. I was at the Mac Plaque game too, and last time I felt that nervous was a Mayor's Trophy game at Yankee Stadium in the '70s. But I'm not disputing the security, the need for additional people or the benefit of it. I'm simply asking where the money for it comes from and whether there's a place that it can come from rather than the tax base, other than the tax base. That's the only question I have.
Again, as far as the gate receipts, I don't control that, so I can't speak to that being part of it. But I would not be in favor, similar to what Nate said, I would not be in favor of increasing revenue based on increasing ticket prices because, again, we're trying to bring people to our venue. We're not trying to keep people away from our venue.
Just
So
for curiosity, did the police use the K-9 unit at all?
I don't believe that they did.
Okay.
And in fact, for the Mac Plaque game, we hired 6 police officers to work that game, and still, they really weren't able to circulate amongst the fans, and that kind of was something that I did somewhat. But again, my job is to be the supervisor of the whole property on that evening, and that's a difficult thing to do. And as you indicated, that was just one example where it would have been nice to have some staff dispersed amongst the fans.
Howard, I guess the question I'll go back to is, when what is your vision of how many? Is that 3 people? Is that 15 people? Is that 4 people at a game? What do you, I mean, you have a number in here.
No,
but
I
what-
understand.
what does
What
it
I
mean
would say to you, Ron, is based on the crowd that we anticipate, for example, Mac Plaque, I would suspect that in addition to the 6 police officers that we brought in, I would suspect probably 4 staff members in addition to myself would be a fair number, and that's the 4 points really of the home bleachers. And at Mac Plaque, the Pinkerton administration really supervised their fans, which, again, when Mac Plaque next year is at their place, I think that we will supervise, or I will definitely. I think that helps. But say at a game where I don't think we'll have a huge crowd, that might be just 2 in addition to myself. I mean, it would be based on need, but that's what I would suspect.
Okay.
And you're talking about the kind of individuals that our kids recognize as
That is
authority
correct.
figures.
Teachers, ideally.
That's my point.
Teachers that connect well with our kids and that are interested in doing this type of thing, and I believe that we have that kind of staff, and I think
I think it's a good idea.
it would work
Howard.
well.
I think it's a smart thing to do, so. Any other questions for Howard, Jay? No?
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
Hey,
wait,
Oh,
not so fast.
what? Okay.
Before you, Howard, on
I tried, Howard, sorry.
On transportation.
Yes, sir.
Have we made any progress on changing the way or the divisions to reduce transportation to certain places? I mean, there's been talk about being more local, that Winnicott doesn't go to Keene
Correct.
type of deal, or we would be playing the Manchester teams and maybe going south into Salem and Hudson.
Well, I'll address that with the plan that's being put forth at the athletic directors level, not just the Class L level, but all the athletic directors. What they've come up with is 6 dates for the schools that play in the anybody, let me just rephrase it. Any of the schools, there'll be 6 dates where you can use, if you choose to play schools more proximal to your school. So, for example, if I'm Keene, an outlying school, and I want to play Monadnock, there's dates that they are building into the schedule now where Keene can play Monadnock. I will tell you this year already, Keene plays Conval, which is 45 minutes from Keene. Goffstown plays Bedford. We put that in place because that's a natural rival, and the schools are 5 miles apart. Now Goffstown doesn't go to Keene, I believe, this year. So there are 6 dates built into it. Here in Londonderry, we have the good fortune of being pretty much in the center of the Class L state, so we never really travel, in Class L that is, more than an hour and 15 minutes in either direction. So I didn't feel that there was really a need to use those 6 dates to play any schools that I felt would be a good match for us in our general vicinity in a smaller class. I think our schedule's fair. And again, I don't believe that our transportation time is, it could be not the least, but among the least in Class L because of our location. If at some point I feel that there's a good competitive match for us, that's close by, that's in a different class, I wouldn't hesitate to do that, just as I did in Goffstown and initiating that Bedford match. But I just don't see the schools close to us really fitting that to shorten our trips.
This wasn't a short enough trip, it's more of an economic point. While now the gas prices are down, but
Sure.
when they're $4 a gallon.
Well, no,
mean,
I understand that.
It was an economic type of decision that needed to be made. And
And-
that's the concern I have, and that we should be looking at that because the prices are going to go up again.
No question. And that is something that, again, in the interest of saving gas, I would suggest that we do have a situation where we would like to purchase some smaller buses, and I think that that can control our transportation costs to some degree. In the short term, our costs, if we are able to, to purchase these smaller buses, the two of them our costs would be equal for athletics, and I believe we would save money because they could be used for field trips during the day. The persons who drive those don't need to be licensed bus drivers. Anybody can drive those. And then at the point where once we own those buses, I believe we would save money. As far as saving time out of class, kids would be able to leave on our own terms because these are buses that we would control, and kids would be able to come home earlier from games that go late in the evening. For example, if we have a basketball game in Keene and we have these two buses, then the JV team can leave when they need to leave for their game. The varsity team can leave when they need to leave for their game. Currently, they take one bus and all the kids go, so the varsity team's there much earlier than they need to be, and the junior varsity team stays much later than they need to be. So this way, they could get home at a reasonable hour, and they wouldn't have to be there in the stands. So that could help, again, decrease time out of class, and it would also get kids home earlier at night, and it would allow them, I believe that would be definitely, kids getting home earlier, especially those younger kids. That could help with that issue, getting to bed late and then having to get to school the next day. So I think this would be a good cost-saving measure. And I would also say that, as far as the issue with the buses goes, it's a complicated one where I believe being able to control our own buses, especially at the middle school as well, that's where now we'll put one team on a bus, whereas on a full-size bus, now if we had those two buses, we could save money because we'd put two separate teams on the buses that we own, and it would, cost us half as much rather than putting, like, say, one soccer team on a bus. Whereas at the high school, we're able to play a JV and varsity. They go on the same bus and they go to games. So really, we're sending one bus, and it accomplishes the cost that it would cost if we had to send those two buses.
I guess as you just brought up the issue about scheduling, and that's always been a pet peeve of mine, because I think we can do a better job scheduling at the middle school to allow both teams to be going someplace. And most of the places would handle that, and I don't think, are we making progress to reduce the individual number of trips and combining teams? And I know you inherited the schedule this year, but are you making progress so we can get teams together, reduce the number of buses that we need to send someplace, that we can send two teams to go to one place as we go there?
Well, I would say that to the places that we can send two teams, and not all schools have the ability to host two games at the same time. We're fortunate in that we can. I would definitely do that, and that's something that we do in basketball, and they do in softball and baseball. It's the fall sports where the problem lies, and I think that directly relates to the field availability in most of the schools that we play. Again, our middle school, we're very fortunate in that we can host more than one game on one day. We can host 2-3 games if we need to. Some of the teams that we play can't. So when that occurs, we're kind of stuck. But if we can do that, I would certainly be in favor of scheduling that way where we can put 2 teams on one bus if we need to.
Thank you.
Not done yet. Sorry.
It's okay.
Page 764, which is the capital league section of your book. Athletics has 2 mats, high jump mat, pole vault mat, and you need to replace the athletic the trainer's utility vehicle. for lack of a better word. So while Howard's here, if you have any questions on the justification for these 3 items?
I'll be happy to address to you why I included those in the, and why I felt it was necessary. The mats, we did an inspection of the high jump mats and the pole vault mats, and the material, the foam that they are made out of was starting to break down. So in the interest of being proactive, we felt now was the time to replace them rather than when it becomes a safety issue. I mean, that was pretty straightforward, to be quite honest with you, and that's why we included them in the lease. As far as the utility vehicle goes, our trainer, who's the primary user of that vehicle, and myself had a meeting and we talked about it, and it became crystal clear to us that the current utility vehicle, which we own, is old. It's at least 5 years old. It leaks oil. It doesn't run well. Just in the last month of the season alone, the vehicle died out on the field, and we needed to tow it back to the school, and they needed to work on it to get it running again. The brakes do not function well, which I can speak to because I drive that vehicle occasionally when I go between schools, which was very scary at one time when I was driving it. And the other thing is there's like a hesitation or a jerking motion when you start it and go to put it in gear, which is another safety factor or safety issue. The vehicle that we suggest and that we looked at, and there's reasons why, again, we thought that this was a good vehicle. Number one, we felt an all-wheel drive vehicle would be the proper vehicle for our particular property that we now have, the expansive area that we need and the different types of terrain that our trainers need to get to practice in game fields. We felt that this vehicle needed the ability to tow what we call as a water boy. It's a 650-pound water a vehicle. It actually is like a towed vehicle that brings water out to the fields for kids to stay hydrated. We felt that we needed the long bed to hold all the equipment and/or players or both that were needed at times. We felt that we needed an enclosed cab, which is different than what we currently have because of the medical supplies that, in the event of inclement weather, need to stay dry to be effective and to work properly, as well as the trainers who are on duty in all conditions, helping to keep them dry while they're at all the practices and games that they supervise. Other things that we felt were important about this vehicle, that they include lights and that they have a horn on it, safety features, as well as windshield wipers. And we felt that this vehicle was the best vehicle based on those needs, which came out of our meeting.
Just quickly, what is this vehicle?
It's a Polaris all-wheel drive utility vehicle
Okay, thank you.
with a hard cap and a longer bed than we currently own.
Any other questions?
Howard, for next budget cycle, I appreciate the work that was done into the uniform replacement for 5 years. I see that some of the equipment is starting to get old, and I don't like to be surprised. I'd like to see a 5-year plan for equipment replacements, looking ahead, seeing where we're going for that, both schools.
Be happy to. I would suggest that the good thing about having the uniform grid is that, again, if we continue to roll it and take the first year and put it out in the 6th year, I believe that we'll be successful in replacing our uniforms for reasonable cost rather than, coming upon a situation where it's an emergency because we didn't take, we
I
didn't do that.
fully concur with you there. I think the equipment replacement would be another good idea.
Anything else from the board?
Yes, you can.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Howard. Appreciate it. Mr. Blunt. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate it.
Outstanding job, Mark, thank you.
Mark, may I have another? Thank you, Nate. Thank you, George. Budget Committee. I'm pleased this evening to present the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Budget for FY 2010. This section begins with the executive summary beginning on page 463 in your book. The budget details are found on pages 604 to 611. The budget for curriculum includes district-wide activities in curriculum development, professional development for instructional improvement, and assessment of district programs of individual student progress through regular education. District-wide content area counts have been developed in the major content areas of reading, English language arts, social studies, math, science, and others to coincide with the school board approval of the district curriculum process in the spring of 2004. Additionally, district-wide activities for special curriculum, literacy, Induction Institute for New Teachers, and action research are found in this summary. The accounts, particularly the learning materials accounts, are designed for initial purchase of texts, transition program of materials, and special curriculum. Replacements for damaged text, reminding of texts, ongoing consumable costs are found in the school text accounts. Beginning on page 604 in the budget detail, the overview of the curriculum, this year's budget is $496,620. The proposed budget for 2010 is $487,189. This is a difference of $9,431 as a decrease. Some of the major points that I'd like to emphasize this evening, I won't go through everything. First, on page 605 with the assessment account line, this account line basically funds our district standardized testing program, the Iowa tests at grades 1 through 9, the Dibbles assessments that we administer at the primary grades, including kindergarten at Moose Hill School. As you've seen this fall in our assessment presentations, this gauges how well we do as a district. These tests are used for a variety of purposes. As you've seen this fall, we use the data to monitor and track student academic growth, to drive instruction, to analyze and adjust our district curriculum, and we also use it for student services that support, enrich, and accelerate at all levels. Recently, I shared with the board a report provided by District Database Administrator Tom Cranmer comparing new students entering the district for the first time to those who have been in the district utilizing the 2007 grades 3 through 8 NECAP results. On average, students who have been in the district outperformed new students in all areas tested. In math, based on the NECAP 0 to 100% scale, students who have remained in the district scored 5% higher at grades 3 through 5 to 7% higher at grade 6 than new students entering the district for the first time. In reading, students who have remained in our schools outperform students by 2% at grade 6 to as much as 7% at grade 8. In writing, students at grade 8 who have remained in the district outperformed new students by 7%, while at grade 4 it was nearly 5% higher than new students. In our recent fall DIBELS benchmark assessments at K through 3, 82% or more of our students were identified low risk in all literacy skill areas. These results represent our highest scores since implementation of DIBELS in the fall of 2004. In both examples, it demonstrates that our teachers, our administrators utilize the data to make appropriate instructional and curriculum decisions to improve student achievement for all students. For district-wide assessment, due to increased costs of test answer booklets, answer sheets, scoring services, the electronic database tool that we use for the Iowa tests, the account has increased 8% and is set at $64,900. On page 606 in the budget detail is science, and let me just, I'll just give you some samples that we brought. You've seen some of these before. While I'm up, I'll give you this little one-page sheet that will make things easier. Thanks. In the area of science, this is a major theme of the district strategic plan. And we continue to focus on science as we upgrade our curriculum materials and resources at all levels in light of new state science frameworks and NECAP science testing. At the elementary level, the district is piloting the Scott Forsman Science Program. Program and kits at grades 3 through 5, and we're having much success with the program. This program was approved for piloting by the board in May 2008. For fiscal year 2010 budget, grades 3 and 4 have been included at a cost of $35,841. For members of the board and the budget committee, you can find the text initiative template that was presented back in May. That's found on page 475, as well as the cost proposal for this program on page 489. In addition, the budget contains the complete purchase of the Kendall Hunt Insights in Biology for all college prep biology courses at $33,880. The board recently had an update just prior to Thanksgiving from some biology teachers on the program. Lastly, this account contains the cost of replacing our existing chemistry program, which is currently 10 years old, with a new chemistry program for honors chemistry, and it is the Holt Reinhardt Winston Modern Chemistry 2009, which is in front of John. The text initiative template you can find on page 499, and the cost proposal on page 508. These major text purchases for fiscal year 2010, as well as other recent curriculum and continued revision, should provide a solid foundation upon which we meet the new state science benchmarks and grade expectations from elementary to high school. For this budget and this account, it's set at $78,943. The one area that we did delay is grade 5 science to be pushed out to fiscal year 2011. Any questions on science?
Yep, John?
I'm pleased, delighted to see $172,000 in cost avoidance, but could you remind me how we got that?
Okay. You are, okay, you're looking at my cheat sheet, which
Yes.
I haven't got to yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
You-
following the rest of your presentation down the cheat sheet.
Very good. On the one sheet summary that I provided the board and the budget committee, what you have before you are all of the proposed items that's found in the executive summary and in this budget. This sheet that was provided, that's in the budget book on page 577, shows grades 3 and 4 science, the reading, language, arts programs for the middle school, grades 6, 7, and 8, the Kendall Hunt Insights in Biology, and the modern chemistry. Basically, through negotiations with the publishers, as you can see in the first column beyond the quantity that we're ordering, or we're suggesting that we order, the total value is what the vendor would charge if they didn't provide any kind of discounts. The bigger the order, or generally you get a greater discount. For example, with Scott Forsman at the top with grades 3 and 4 science, because we have Scott Forsman in a number of other areas, we're able to garner greater savings. So if we didn't get any savings at all on the programs that we're proposing, it would be over $300,000. Through efforts of the curriculum coordinators and myself, we have a cost avoidance of $172,000 and change, which puts the total cost for all of our text proposals at $130,420. So basically, with the science at grade 3, the vendor is, we're getting the student text at no cost. We're just paying for the science kits. So that's a huge savings for us. So any other questions on that, John?
I'll cover it.
Okay.
Mark, go ahead.
Mark doesn't give himself enough credit, and also we got to give credit to the curriculum coordinators too. They have become very nasty negotiators with the book companies and the publishers, and have been able to garner some really good deals for us. And they've done a significant amount of arm twisting over the last couple of years to garner these deals to the benefit of our students. I'm sorry.
Mark, you had mentioned that you postponed the grade 5. Was that an economic decision?
Basically, yes, that is an economic decision. We felt, based on conversations with the elementary administrators and the pilot teachers, we felt comfortable that we would proceed with grades 3 and 4 because of the kneecap science testing at grade 4, that we could delay full implementation at grade 5 for a year.
What was the cost that we're looking at when you look at the total cost, the cost avoidance? Is it on here and I missed it somewhere?
Cost avoidance at, for 3, 4, and 5?
No, I'm just looking for 5. What is the delta? What I'm saying is, what is the
Yep.
total cost, the cost avoidance, and the total cost to us?
Find that for you, just give me a second. Okay. For grade 5, you're looking at an additional cost of $8,317. The total that we would get for the cost avoidance would be $5,545. And that you can find on page 491 under the vendor proposal.
Mark, can I,
Go ahead, because that doesn't,
no, that's what I want to look.
go ahead.
Mark, I just want to get off the money for a second.
Yep.
Can you assess for me the impact, if there is any impact, in delaying grade 5? Is there any break in the continuum from 3, 4, 5, and then affect those kids going into 6?
Ideally, it would
Realize
be-
it's a
Ideally,
lofty
it would,
question.
ideally, it would be beneficial to have 3, 4, and 5 implemented, at the same time. However, we were looking for some savings.
And you're talking about a total, if I get this right, and Ronnie, I'm sorry for jumping in on you.
No,
If I get this right, the total cost to us for 5th grade was
It was about
$8,317.
$8,600. $8,600.
Less than $10,000?
less than $10,000?
10,000. And then if you look at, back to that.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I
Mark, can I ask a question? On grade 5, you were talking about textbooks and also kits too,
Yes.
and the classroom, so that's 83, 17, and 6, right? There's what, 14, 6? I'm just trying to get a handle on,
okay, so.
At the next meeting, can you come back with the cost of doing the 5th grade, please?
Right.
I guess, instead of trying to do it on the run,
Yep.
can you?
I'll let Ray
Can
know.
you do that?
Yeah, I can.
But let us know what the total cost for that 5th grade is?
Yeah,
No?
Yeah,
All right,
we'll have it.
thank you.
not a problem. Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Head on some other key points that I just want to point out is in the area of reading, language arts. Just gonna hand out a couple of other samples. And some of these you have seen in the past. Major theme of the district strategic plan is reading English language arts, particularly at grades 6 through 8. The budget includes the complete purchase at grades 6 through 8 of the Pearson AMP reading system, designed to address needs of at-risk middle school readers. This program is the intervention program to the Prentice Hall-based Reader's Journey, which we implemented this fall. The school board approved implementation of grade 6 reading at its May 6, 2008 meeting. Pending school board approval, the cost to complete the implementation of this program is $22,000. The text initiative template you can find beginning on page 511. The cost proposals on page 524 in your budget book. In the area of language arts and writing, at grades 6 through 8. This budget includes, at grade 7, the cost to pilot the McDougall-Littell Literature Program and the grammar component, the Language Network, and the pilot is set at $16,500. The literature templates on page 525, the cost proposals on page 540. The pilot is basically a set of 120 texts for both the language and the literature program. For this account, it's set at $40,900. Other considerations in this reading account that's been stretched out is the phase-in of the pilot grade 8 language arts program and sophomore English. Foreign language for fiscal year 2010 is set at $0. There was a request for Spanish 1 that has been delayed till fiscal year 2011. Under improvement of instruction, tuition reimbursement accounts, which are found in the budget detail on page 606 and 607 for all elementary, middle school, and high school. After examining 3-year historical expenditures, all accounts were reviewed and adjusted as necessary. The all elementary account is level funded at $125,000. Middle school has been increased by $12,000 to $64,000. The high school tuition reimbursement account has been increased by $5,000 to $80,000. These accounts are used for reimbursement for attendance and completion of coursework, workshops, and conferences. Other accounts of note, the professional service accounts, and these are found on pages 357 and through 358. These are used to pay consultants and trainers for specific curriculum, instruction, trainings. And these have gone down approximately $1,500 in each of the 3 levels, elementary, middle, and high school. In recent years, we have offset these accounts with federal title monies, particularly Title IIA, to fund some of our consulting work. Under Improve Instruction salary accounts, these are summer curriculum accounts, and these are found on page 386 in the budget book. These accounts are used to have teachers work on such things as curriculum toolkit revisions, trimester guideline adjustments at the elementary level, science curriculum work, which we'll be working on at the elementary level, as well as the high school level. These accounts are used for those purposes. If you'd like more specific details on what's planned for middle and high school levels, you can find specific information on pages 586, beginning on page 586. The last account under salary that I'd like to just address is the Induction Institute. This is level funded, and this also includes funding for Action Research, which provides stipends to teachers working on research activities. Going to back into the curriculum section, beginning on page 609 are the special curriculum budget details. For this current year, our budget is set at $28,700. The proposed budget for next year is set at $22,755. This is a decrease of $5,945. Some of the areas of note that I like to point out in this area, the district-wide travel for OM has been reduced from a giving that the board has provided to district OM teams that go on to global competition in Knoxville, Tennessee, from $10,000 to $5,000. Supply budgets for the middle school and elementary have had a total reduction of $945. And just for information for the board and the budget committee, I did provide a recent presentation of some of the services and participation rates that the special curriculum offerings provide to our students, and those are found beginning on page 557. The next piece that I'd like to focus on is on page 472 at the end of the executive summary. And this is basically summer, school information. Just to make it easier for the board and the budget committee, I did put together a listing of all of the salaries from the elementary program up to the high school program, and the total level of funding that we provide for the summer programs. Through the business office, we did generate approximately $24,784 in revenue because these are fee-based programs. And then the last piece, just for the board's information and the budget committee's information, I did provide, beginning on page 594, projected costs for consumables, particularly an update on grades 1 and 2 math consumables, for reading consumables, as well as consumables of new programming for the middle school. And those are found beginning on page 594. Don't have any other things to report, so I'll open it up for questions.
John?
Couple of questions. I fully support the idea of reimbursing tuition for teachers to advance their own level of expertise. I'm wondering, though, as a matter of policy, do we have any conditions on that? Is there a minimum time in service before you qualify, or a period that you have to remain following the expense?
John, it's contractual.
Yeah.
The teachers can have up to, I believe it's $1,500. If they're taking a course and it's a graduate course, they're required to get a B or better. Otherwise, they've got to return the funds. They don't have to be here for any particular period of time. Once they're hired, they're eligible to apply for workshops. The request for workshops or conferences all must first be approved by the building principal or their direct supervisor. Then it gets bumped up to me, and then I have to approve it. And it's supposed to be directed either particularly at their specific goals for the year, their staff development plan, and/or specific strategic planning goals. So it's all outlined in the contract.
I'm asking because my experience in the private sector has been, if you, for example, leave the company within 12 months or 24 months following reimbursement, you need to pay them back.
No.
We don't have that? Okay.
No, the only provision in the contract that would come close to that would be if somebody went on sabbatical. When they came back, they have to stay for X number of years. I forget, I think it may be 2 or 3. And if they don't, then they have to pay us back.
Okay. And the other question, you know this is my pet peeve. Do you have any idea how much of the assessment expenses we are paying for that are mandated by the state and we wouldn't be doing otherwise?
Earlier this fall, I did provide the board the number of hours that it takes to administer standardized assessments. Particularly, I think you're referring to is the kneecap.
Right. I remember you talked about hours. I'm wondering in terms of, on the first page of your briefing here, we're talking about materials for district-wide assessments, things such as that. I'm wondering if we can allocate any of that expense to that requirement.
I'm
I'm
not
not trying to-
understanding the question.
The costs in there for assessment materials are the ones that we have decided that we are going to use, the Iowa test or the Dibbles or what have you. The state pays for the scoring and the material for the statewide assessment. What they do not pay for is the amount of is the time that has to be devoted to the administration of those assessments. So if, and I forget the numbers that Mark had, but if the hours, for instance, let's say it was 30 administrative hours to do all the work and somebody was getting paid, well, we'll take Carol's salary at $1.50 an hour.
Yeah.
You know, that $45 would be basically our contribution to the state assessment.
Okay, for sure. I simply wasn't aware that the state paid for the materials.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mark? Yep, thanks.
When you do the projections for the anticipated textbook replacement cycle,
Yes.
I guess the general question is, what's the basis? I mean, what's the rationale, or how did you come? Obviously, this is way-
I'm glad you brought it up, Ben. This is something I've been working on along with the curriculum coordinators the last couple of years. We based it on the age of our existing inventory of texts. We also based it on a policy that the board passed last year that basically determined that the life cycle at minimum in which we would be looking at reviewing, upgrading, or replacing a text would be 10 years. So I based it on those factors. That's how we put together kind of this initial snapshot of a 10-year anticipated text replacement cycle at all levels. And the rest of the board, you can find that particular document beginning on page 569. And the way it is set up, the first page is basically all elementary from 2008-09 to 2018-19. Going on to the next page over is anticipated replacement at the middle school. And at the bottom is the subtotal for K through 8. And then the next page, the third page, is the anticipated text replacement cycle for high school, starting at 08 and going out to 18-19. And it continues on the following page, actually the next couple of pages. And if you get to the very end on page 575, it's this at the bottom. It is basically what we've projected as some grand totals on various curriculum needs. The 18-19, obviously that would have to be adjusted, and probably some others as well. But this was based on kind of an initial snapshot of the age of our existing text, the 10-year minimum of taking a look at replacement text based on the school board policy.
We want to move before 2018, 2019.
That one definitely will change.
Do you think they'll still be using paper?
There's $1 million in textbooks
I
in
would have to-
2018, 2019.
That one definitely is going to be stretched out.
Do you think they'll still be using books then?
Who knows?
But you know how this,
We basically based it on, we took the current prices, and then for each year out, we added 8% to the cost of the text plus 8% shipping for each year going out. So, just to kind of give folks a sense.
It's a sense, all right.
It's a sense.
That's gonna be it.
let's you know, these things get slipped in here, and then they get referred to in later years, like, oh yeah, you've already approved this, and this is what we've been doing, so we spend a moment on this.
Actually, no, actually, it was a request by one of the board members to kind of get a sense of what it would look like, so, which I think is a
good. No.
good thing for us to be
Right.
cognizant
No,
of.
it's important that we do that so that we're not looking for the next 6 months.
That's right.
Anybody else?
We're done for this evening.
Well, Mr. Blunt, thank you so much. Thank you. I think that was record time for you, Mark.
Right.
Man, 410 pages of material in 15 minutes. Darn, you're good.
Just waiting
Everybody-
for the charts and graphs.
Before we adjourn, I want to thank everybody for coming out and sticking with us, and we'll see you on Thursday night. Same time, same place, same channel. I'll take a motion. Second. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you. All right.